Oh, you're stuck. The atmosphere is basically stuck with the Earth, and when you fly, even though the Earth's spinning underneath you, it's dragging you with it as if you were in lockstep with it. So it's going to appear to be stationary. Every part of the globe is like a yeah. The default position is that the Earth is flat and stationary, but here's an unfalsifiable begging the question as to why it's actually the opposite. That's the
Dude,
point that I'm making.
deleting the target argument is foolproof.
Yeah, did someone want to go do that with Jeremy real quick? If you're down.
I can't do it right now.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, there's that one. Then obviously there's new perspectives arguments, and like this is. But the point I'm trying to make with this show is just that the default position is that the Earth is flat and stationary. Like because that doesn't prove the Earth is flat and stationary. You see, like I'm trying to be thoroughly honest about this guy, like thoroughly honest. Like it's crazy people try to call me a liar and that, dude. I help the Glober so much. I give you Stillman's. Like when I hear you make a reasonable argument, I don't keep making my argument. If I think you have a sufficient response, I don't keep making it. I literally give them Stillman's. Like when I'm in quote unquote debates, they get something wrong. I could just like take the W, right, and make them look ridiculous. I jump in and say, dude, here, like what your model says is this. And I'll give them the strongest argument I've ever heard or that I know. I'm doing the same thing here. Okay. And what I'm trying to say is this doesn't prove the earth is flat and stationary, but we have to be able to all use logic together if we're going to get anywhere, right? We can get all divided. Like you think it's a spinning ball. I think it's not. Dude, in theory, if the earth is not what we think it is, and there have been some people that misled us, right? In that situation, we would all be on the same team, right? So either way, there are people that are trying to figure out what's going on. The government says you can't go out past here. Let's figure out what's going on. We have to use logic to figure out what's going on. And they don't teach us logic in school, and it's not just to hide the earth. It's just because, Rockefeller said, like, I don't care. I want workers, not thinkers. The guy who helped create the public education systems explained what he created it for. I want workers, not thinkers. So that's why we're not taught logic. And we're taught what to think, not how to think. So this is what I'm trying to explain in this stream specifically is how to think. Because if we can't all agree on the proper way of how to think about this discussion, we're just going to talk past each other. Globers look at it like, well, the globe Earth has a model and has tons of answers for everything, and I don't understand how this, or this would work on a flat Earth, so I think it's stupid. The flat Earthers think, okay, well, here's the model and the claim, and sure, it claims to have a bunch of answers, but we went and tested it, and like the evidence is not stacking up. And if we go back to step one, the default position is that it's flat and stationary. So in order to think it's a spinning ball, we're going to have to, sufficiently prove that or verify that because it's the opposite of what we experience. So there's a group that has suspended belief in the globe model. That's like, we don't believe in flat Earth. No, we suspended belief in the globe Earth. And what are you left with? If you suspend belief in the globe Earth, you're left with what you experience, what we observe, what we measure. And that is a stationary topographical plane. That's what we're left with. We're not believing in anything. We're quote unquote believing in what we all experience, what all the evidence is, what the globe model admits all the default evidence is, or makes it appear to be, right? So this is more of a meta, but it's because honestly, like the real like in the mud type of arguments are kind of played out to me at this point because we're just talking past each other. If we can't agree on like the meta of this, I think that this is very important. I know that was me talking a lot right there, but I really hope that people are understanding what I'm saying. And like, I'll try to wrap it up here, but this is the point. You have.
I'm still standing by the way, patient. Just a reminder, I still have these questions.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay. I'm gonna let you ask a question after I finish this. Because so this is the part I was saying earlier. Occam's razor is a form of like logical approach to discovering or figuring out an answer. So it applies when you have multiple answers to the same question or explanations to the same phenomena that in theory could explain it. So if there's one that couldn't, then it just doesn't count. It's that you have multiple answers. Okay. That which has the least amount of assumptions is the most likely to be true. okay, you go to the default. If there's ever a scenario where it's like, well, that's an illusion, or your eyes are playing tricks on you, or it's actually backwards, right? It's actually the opposite of what we see or what we think. It's possible that does happen. Like even Matthew brought up, look, they thought the sun went underneath the earth, right? Like it is possible, but you have to prove that. That's the point I'm making. It's very simple.
I would
but
say
it's, like,
that's the
very
default,
important.
though.
What?
That when you see the sun cut off halfway during the sunset, that the default position Occam's razor should be that it's being blocked by the ocean.
Sure, but you can prove that that's not the case, and the way that you do that is just you can see the sun.
But I appreciate your emphasis on thinking about the defaults and going from there.
Yeah, I just think it's an important first step. That's all I'm trying. Like, it doesn't prove the Earth is flat, but what always happens is people don't approach it that way. They act like there's no evidence for flat Earth. They actually go around saying that, and this is why flat Earthers look at a lot of you guys like kind of like a joke. It's like that's just objectively not true, and I'm trying to bridge the gap here, you know. So anyway, all right, Big Tech, what you got?
All right. At risk of getting off in the weeds, I just wanted to point out my understanding of Occam's razor. This isn't one of the questions, but you keep bringing it up, and that's not really like considered an irrefutable principle of logic or science or anything like that. It's really just more like a preference for simplicity, not really actually usually very useful in complex systems. It's really just sort of like when in doubt, go with the simple answer. It's sort of just like a rule of thumb in general. That's really more or less what it's saying. It's not really a logical principle in any way. It's not really actually based on logic. It's just a preference for simplicity.
But like it is a form of logic because it's most likely to be true. So we're using logic and reason.
No, I think that's erroneous. I don't think it is more likely to be true. I don't think there's actually any element of likeliness involved.
The simplest, most coherent explanation with the least amount of assumptions is most likely to be true. You can disagree with that, but like all experience supports
it's not
that.
Always correct.
Almost no one disputes the Occam's razor. Well, but this is the caveat. I've said this though.
All right. Well, that's an appeal to the masses.
No,
but almost everyone agrees isn't valid.
Yeah, sure. If you get to cut me off and not let me make the argument, then you could claim that I had an appeal to consensus, but that wasn't in place of my argument. So, okay, my argument.
I thought we were doing that because you did it with the red herring thing.
Well, yeah, that's different though, because like that's just blatantly changing the subject. That is, you can cut people off with red herrings, and arguably even like blatant straw mans once you hear them. But okay,
yeah,
this is the point, right? I said very clearly that the caveat is that doesn't mean it's true. It's certainly like it's just the first. It's how you can establish where you start. Okay, and I don't see how that can really be disputed. If you have like 50 answers. Well, okay, what's the most likely? Well, the one that I don't have to make all kinds of assumptions that I can't verify. If there's there's an explanation over here where I don't have to make any assumptions, but then there's another explanation over here that requires like 10 assumptions and it's way more complicated and I can't verify it, then the first one is most likely to be true. It may be that actually the one with 50 assumptions is true. Sure, in theory, right? But the most likely to be true is the one that doesn't require assumptions. That's the point I'm making. If we apply Occam's razor to this, we see stuff move in the sky. Sun and moon appear to be the same size. Horizon's horizontal. The Earth's not moving. That doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but it just makes it like the default initial starting point. That was the point. I would never. I think it's incredibly ignorant to be like Occam's razor proves things, right? I don't think that at all. Of course not, right?
Okay, cool.
All right, but go
ahead. All right, to the questions. I think I would start with this one. This is one I'm most curious about. I think I asked you before how far you think the sun is away, and you said I don't know, if I remember right.
Yeah, no idea.
And so no idea. So
no idea.
Then we've brought up the question of like, what's the name of the dude who postulated that the Earth is curved based on the shadows and stuff?
Eratosthenes.
Eratosthenes, thanks. And you said, okay, well, that could be done on a flat plane too. There'd be differences if the light is not traveling in parallel.
Yep. A local light source with divergent rays.
So postulating then a local light source, and then the question will be, well, so if the rays are divergent and you're postulating a local source, that would be a single source, which is the sun. You're assuming that the sun's in a single place with divergent rays. And if you have divergent measurements in the shadows, why don't you just triangulate and just do the geometry and figure out how far that local source is?
Yeah, because you would need an actual position. So there's no doubt that perspective messes with the sun, right? Because you can see at certain times it'll look like the rays are diverging onto the clouds. Like we know the sun's not literally in the clouds though. You know what I'm saying? Like there are times where if you follow the rays to where they're converging, it'll end up in the clouds. So but this is called like we see what's called crepuscular rays from the sun, right? Here, I can show a picture, but crepuscular rays are where the rays diverge out from the sun. And sometimes, because what happens is it's called diffraction, right? The light there's like a physical obstruction of the path of light, and it causes it to like split out. And you get interference patterns and all this stuff.
Yeah, interference patterns, yeah.
And so like whenever the light splits out, right, it's going to optically converge to wherever that physical obstruction is, because it's going to split out from there. And so we have crepuscular rays where sometimes the sun looks like it's like right there, like you could get in a balloon and go to the sun. But we know that's not true. Like we know it's not that close. So
why do you know?
Because you can fly higher than the clouds and you're not above the sun. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The globe model says, both sides agree that there's an illusion with exactly where the sun is when it comes to like divergent rays. The globe model says that there are no divergent rays at all, and basically compares them to railroad tracks, right? Where they look like they're converging, but they're not at all. They're parallel. Even though technically they are diverging in the globe model, because light has to diverge if it's coming from like a spherical object, right? But it's just that it's diverging so small that it's basically perfectly parallel. So anyway, so like that's the reason why we can't just take the rays and figure out how high the sun is, because like there's an apparent position, right, that's created by the crepuscular rays. And honestly, I've seen some flat earthers get this wrong, so it's probably good that we throw this all out there. Like this is relatively simple, but
so you're saying so let me get it. So what are you saying is interfering with the light, causing it to diverge rather than being a straight line to the source on a clear day?
Well, I'm just saying we always see the sun. We always see the rays diverge off the sun in all directions, like we would expect it to if it was pretty close. Because
oh yeah. But my question is so assuming that that's what's going on. So you're assuming that it's close and the rays are diverging, and that's the reason why the shadows are different lengths at different parts of the plane, the Earth's surface, right? So if you're saying that the local sun,
you can get a distance like doing Eratosthenes, assuming it's close. Like just take
do Eratosthenes, assume that it's close, but just figure out the angles and go like, all right, angle here, angle A, angle B, angle C, different locations. You can triangulate and figure out, all right, well then it would be located here at this altitude.
My answer's still the same, which is that in order to know that means that you're going to have to assume the sun's in an actual position. Because even like where the light's
coming, do you assume it's not in an actual position?
Yeah, 100%. We don't see the sun in an actual position. And we know that because the only way we can predict the sunset time is we have to use an apparent position. It's called the equation.
Why don't you calculate the apparent altitude of the sun?
Yeah, we can do that, sure.
And what does it appear to be at?
I wouldn't know the number off the top of my head. People typically say around 3,300 miles. If you look at the apparent position. And that would be for your model too, like the apparent position, but it depends on, you have to then determine a size of it, right? Because we're going off of angular size. So in order to know how far away it is, for example, you can do the calculations and you can get a sun that's 3,300 miles away and like 32 miles in diameter. Or you can get a sun that's 93 million miles away and then like, I don't even know, insanely big, right? Like, what's the diameter of the sun? 865,000 miles in diameter.
Haven't they done measurements to the distance of the moon with like
Radar.
reflecting light,
Radar, yeah,
like
supposedly.
laser beams, radar? Yeah, there's ways of like measuring distance. And
Yeah.
do you accept that, or do you refute that?
Mm.
Or do you throw
Well,
that out?
okay, so the actual evidence of them doing that is actually very scarce. But for like intents and purposes, I always just grant it. I always just grant as if it's real because I like to explain how even if it's real, doesn't what's wrong with it. But I do want to make sure everyone knows like the evidence for that is incredibly scarce. Like, especially the laser thing. There's like a couple videos in all of existence where they claim to have shot a laser, and then what happens is they just get like a little beep on a monitor, and they claim that that's for sure one of the photons that they sent. What the out of tens of millions they got, and it's a little beep on the screen. There's like a couple videos that ever claim to do that, and then people also claim that's proof that we went to the moon because we shot a laser reflected off the reflectors we put there, right? But they claim to have bounced a laser off the moon before they even claimed to went to the moon. But anyway, let's pretend that like they really are bouncing things off the moon or whatever. When you look into like say the radar bounce, because people, this is another thing, like another talking point people will say is like, dude, every amateur, and they say it with such confidence, bro, amateur radio, like ham radio operators can go outside in their backyard and bounce it off the moon. Some will lie and claim they've done it, and every time you press them on it, they didn't even do it. I don't know why people do stuff like that, but I don't dispute that you can shoot radar up towards the moon and maybe get a signal back. This is what, when I looked into the data, this is what seems to happen is like the duration, meaning how long it takes, there's like a span. So it can go from like 2 to like I want to say even as high as like 3.2 seconds or something like that. It's like 2.1 to 3.2. There's like this big span of seconds. And obviously in the globe model, if it was in a vacuum and you shot the radio wave there, that's light. So speed of light there and back, 238,000 miles, it should take 2.5 seconds round trip, right? So there's actually a huge span of seconds. Like, well, I'm guessing that they'll come up with some excuse for that, but like, how does that work, right? If we know it's a vacuum, we shoot the light in the vacuum, we know the speed of light in a vacuum, so we should be able to know. We should always get the same amount of time, but we don't. It varies according to all the different data. You can even Google it; it'll tell you that it varies. So anyway, that's evidence to me actually that there's something else going on, and that it may be reflecting off something else between us and the moon, or that there's a medium there that has some type of different qualities at different times, or where the moon's cycle causes changes in the medium or whatever. I don't know. That would actually be very interesting to work that all out. But long story short, the way that they get the distance is they take the speed equals distance over time. So you have the speed of light, and you have d, just blank, right, over time. So you get how long you take it, use the speed, that's how you get the distance. But it varies greatly. And so in real life application, they just assume they know how far away it is already based on everything else that they've come up with in the model. And they kind of just come up with reasons why the data doesn't match it. So no, I don't consider that verification. And actually, there's evidence that you can shoot radio waves away from the moon and get it to bounce back. So what's it bouncing off there, right? And then the globe model even claims that a lot of radio waves bounce. I know it's a lot of information, but I'm trying to like thoroughly, because I want you to know everything and make up your own mind. Like another thing is like the ionosphere. They claim radio waves bounce off the ionosphere, and so they'll say that about 40 up to 40 megahertz. The ionosphere is about 40 megahertz, and so if you shoot a radio signal that's 40 megahertz or lower, it'll reflect off the ionosphere. If it's anywhere higher, it'll penetrate it, right? But then they'll claim to shoot like things at the moon consistently at like 110 megahertz that would penetrate it, right? So then it's like, okay, so if I take a radio wave of say 110 megahertz and I shoot it out horizontally on the Earth, then that means it should get blocked by the curve and it should only go like a few hundred miles, right? Because we can do that thousands of miles. And then they'll turn around and double speak and say, oh no, that bounced off the ionosphere. And I'm like, I thought you were shooting 110 megahertz to the moon through the ionosphere reliably. because it was so high of a frequency it went through the ionosphere. But now that we tested on the Earth and shot it out horizontally and they go thousands of miles when the globe predicts just a couple hundred, all of a sudden, oh no, the frequency over 100 can still bounce off the ionosphere. That's a side piece of information though, but so no, anyway, it's very convoluted, kind of cherry picking, presupposition type of thing.
From my understanding, the explanation of the differences in the LiDAR measurements is that the moon travels in a non-perfect distance from the planet, and we can measure it in a lot of different ways. It's a slightly different size when it's at perigee versus apogee, and it's like a 45,000 kilometer difference at perigee versus apogee. So that 45,000 miles times 2 extra difference there and back accounts for the difference in measurement at different times in different places.
But that's like that. But think about how fast the speed of light is, though. Like 40. You said 45,000 miles.
Yeah, times 2. So it's 90,000 miles difference. So you get a slight fluctuation in the speed that the signal comes back.
Okay. Well, so you would agree.
Sorry, kilometers, not miles.
Okay, you would agree that in this scenario, we would know exactly how long it's going to come back every time then, right? Because we would know where the moon is in its cycle and how far away it is, and then we'd be able to know.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
but that doesn't happen. Also, though, the other problem here is that, like, say you have 0.7 second difference. Dude, with the speed of light, that is a ton. Let's see.
Yeah, that's huge. I haven't seen that. I'd like to see that. Maybe you've done a breakdown on that before. I'll look into that. That's a good answer. So, like I said, I'm just curious about these. I want to see what your answers are. But if you found, discrepancies in the measurements, that's interesting.
I think so. It's saying 670 million miles per hour is the speed of light. 670 million miles per hour. So, like, let's say in miles per second, obviously. So, yeah, the number everyone's always heard, 186,000 miles per second.
Yeah, we're talking 300,000 kilometers per second. And so 90,000 kilometers would be, a fraction of a second.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's actually a good idea, though, for me to, like, really break it all down. But, and then there's another thing, too, that Bob brought up to me back in the day. Is like, think about this. So, like, you're on the Earth and it's spinning, and then you shoot a signal up to the moon, and the moon has to go there and bounce back. How much does the Earth spin in 2.5 seconds? Like, how far away are you from the place you were in miles, right? In relation to the moon. The signal's just going to come right back to you after you spin. You're spinning and you're shooting the signal with the momentum of your spin, and it's going to go up, and you're going to keep spinning, and it's going to hit the moon at whatever angle it does, and it's going to come back to you as you change your position. And normally they'll say something like, oh, but it spans out super, super wide. Well, if it's spanning out super, super wide, then that means that the moon's only going to get hit by a small little portion of it. And so now you've cut it in significantly, and then it's going to come back. I guess that is their answer, though. They say it spans out super wide, but
yeah, it's not a string of individual, perfectly aligned electrons, or photons.
Yeah, my major thing with it is, I think the moon could be plasma, and plasma is ionized gas. And I would expect that you actually could bounce things off of it. And so when it comes to determining the distance, you're going to need to know the medium. Like say it's in a more dense medium than a vacuum. Well, then you're going to get a totally different distance value, right? Like because the radio wave, the light's going to go much slower in a denser medium than it is in a vacuum. And so you can think something's way further than it really is if it's in a more dense medium than you think it is. Does that make sense? Now, if the values always perfectly match, that would be a stronger argument for you guys, but they don't. Like when I looked into it deeper, they don't. And there's actually like a surprising shortage of reliable tests, certainly with the lasers, quote unquote. But anyway, I hope that makes sense. Like if it's more dense, the light's going to go a different speed. Like even though they say the speed of light is constant, well, like it's constant in a vacuum. Like it changes in relation to medium, because they'll say like in water, it travels a greater distance, so the speed didn't change, but the time changed because it had to go a greater distance. So basically, to us, it slowed down, or whatever, because they have to say that. I would say speed. No, like light just slows down. But whatever. Does that make sense?
Okay, speaking of that, I think that's a good segue to my second question, which is about the time dilation synchronization they claim that they have to do on GPS navigation satellites. Do you just toss that out? You think they're lying, or what's your answer? Why do they have to synchronize the clocks and take into account time dilation for the orbiting satellites?
Yeah, I'll answer this, but I wish that some of the boys from Ether Cause was here because this is like their dream question. They love it. But so when you look into it, you have to figure out how atomic clocks work. The way atomic clocks work is they will use their terminology, right? So the most accurate one is a cesium atomic clock. So they use what they call cesium atoms, and they have like a vibrational rate, and that's how they quantify a second. Is that they call it clicks. And it's like 9,180,000,000 clicks a second or whatever. And that's how they get a second. So that's like how precise it is. Pretty mind blowing, right? It's like oscillatory. It's oscillating. It's vibrating. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then what they do is they run it through these magnetic fields and they separate them into two groups because they change the quote unquote spin of them in different directions. There's like two groups. They separate them with magnetic fields, and they use these to get a time. And then what they do is it monitors like the vibrational rate, and it sends out microwaves to tune it back in, right? Because if you didn't do that, it wouldn't be accurate. So they're actually constantly kind of like the way that the technology is built, it's constantly cooking the books, right? Because it sends out these microwaves, and of course the microwave like overpowers it and it like corrects the resonance. It puts it in line with the frequency of the microwave. So like constantly making sure it stays in a certain way, which if we were going to talk about like, we're going to figure out what's going on in terms of time dilation, we shouldn't be messing with that, right? But anyway, so the way the atomic clocks work in of themselves are typically not understood. Most people don't know all that. But anyway, now we get to, well, that means relativity predicts that there will be a certain amount of time dilation. And what they actually have found, according to the GPS manuals, is that it's anisotropic, meaning that it has a preferred direction. And specifically that the direction that, the satellite is moving. So the time dilation correction actually has to account for the velocity of the satellite and the direction that it's going. And
because it's basically the Doppler effect, right?
Yeah, but that's a problem for relativity, right? Relativity says that the speed of light will remain constant regardless of how fast the satellite's moving, regardless of how fast anything's moving. That the speed of light itself won't change, but what they're doing is they're getting different durations, like different durations of signal, and so they have to make corrections to it to make it work. And this is where you get into stuff like the main, like the international GPS manual will tell you that you have to make a east to west correction. Like it'll go faster one direction than the other. And then you get into Ron Hatch, who had to come in and create a correction for it because the relativity's prediction didn't work. And so they came up with a new prediction and basically uses like an etheric model where you actually do account for the velocity in really simple terms. Like the etheric model would say that if something's moving, it's c plus v. So it's like the rate of light plus the velocity of whatever you're in, c plus v. Whereas relativity would predict it's just c. But to actually use the GPS properly, they have to do c plus v. That's a lot of information, but then here's the most concise way to go to it. Supposedly they verified time dilation in GPS satellites or in atomic clocks. It's called I always forget the name. It's like heating and Kathleen or Kathleen heating or something. Does anyone remember by chance? Atomic clock. I'll find it. It's like Haffel and Keating. So this is 1971. This super famous test, and it's supposedly what people will tell you, what Wikipedia will tell you, is that it proved and verified Einstein's prediction of time dilation in the atomic clock. So they took these clocks, they synchronized them, they put them on a plane, and they flew them at different heights, at different speeds, in different directions, and they monitor the clock, right? Because Einstein's prediction of time dilation was going to change based on which direction they were flying. And what they saw actually was that the time measured, it sped up and slowed down in both directions. Wikipedia will literally tell you that it proved relativity. And when you go look at the actual paper and their charts, it shows that there were errors both in the negative and positive direction in both the east and west direction. So it's not only didn't verify Einstein, it specifically was a problem for relativity, And so to me, that's very interesting. But anyway, and I can give you that. I can show you the charts. The actual charts show you that it goes positive and negative, meaning slower and faster in both directions. It shouldn't have done that. It should have slowed down in one direction, right? And it didn't. So yeah, and I'll just throw this out here. This is what we always find. This is why flat earthers are so kind of dug into their position, because it's like, if I look it up in the mainstream, it's going to tell me that test by Haffel and Keating proved time dilation and that relativity was true. You go read the paper, you look at the charts, it says that's not the case. Even their writing admits it wasn't the case. It went faster and slower in both directions. It should have only went slower in one direction. It went faster and slower and in both directions, right? Okay, so that's a major problem for them. And then what they'll tell you, GPS has to account for relativistic time dilation to work, kind of like you said, right? That's what all the mainstream will say. When you actually look into it, no, they had to bring Ron Hatch in to fix the GPS. This guy won a Nobel Prize, or he won all kinds of GPS awards. He was the GPS guy, right? They brought Ron Hatch in to fix it. He wrote an entire paper talking about how GPS actually falsified relativity, and in order to make the correction that everyone now uses, he had to use C plus V and go against relativity. But they'll tell you that satellites prove relativity, and I'm going to list a couple more just to see. This is a reoccurring theme, and this is this is Grabler propaganda. This is what they do. So that if you go over to, they'll say that Mercury's perihelion shift proved relativity. Actually, because Newtonian's orbit doesn't really work with it, because Mercury's a little different. But it was actually observed 40 years beforehand, and he tried to make it work, but couldn't make it work. And the math doesn't work, and then you have to add an additional planet or change the size of the sun or the charge of the sun, and it still doesn't work. It's called the Mercury perihelion shift problem. They use the Kerr metric and a few other variations of that. They use an imaginary mass and a massless path and all this crazy stuff to try to make the math work. So that's another lie. They'll tell you that relativity was proven by its ability to predict the perihelion shift of Mercury, but actually it wasn't. And then I'll give you one more example. One of the most famous ones, because if you look up proof of relativity, you're going to get all this, is the 1919 Arthur Eddington experiment, where they supposedly relativity predicted that you would see a star from behind the sun during the eclipse, because the gravitational field of the sun was actually going to bend the light around where you could see the star, even though the star was behind it. And it's called gravitational lensing. And so the relativistic prediction was that you'd see the star because it would be close enough that it'd bend around it. And then Eddington, who had I want to say 30 plates, he didn't observe it in any of his plates except allegedly 3 of them. And coincidentally, all 3 of them got destroyed, so we could never see it. And so the mainstream will tell you that they went and proved it and they saw it. But actually, the guy who did it, it's called the Eddington experiment. He said, no, this is a major problem for relativity. Almost all the plates didn't see it. And then the only ones that supposedly did match relativity, and even those, they admit they had to make a correction to claim it did match it, they got destroyed. So you see how that just seems weird, right? If relativity is real, you wouldn't have to misrepresent all these tests. But anyway, Arthur Eddington himself said this is a major problem for relativity. It didn't match the prediction. Wikipedia will tell you that it proved it. It's the same with the atomic clocks. Wikipedia will tell you that it proved it, but didn't. That was a lot of information, but dude, it took us a long time to find all this stuff. So you're getting a crash course. You should obviously not just trust what I'm saying, but I think you can understand why people would be pretty skeptical when you see that happening over and over.
Yeah, personally, before I go on to the next question, I'll grant you that I'm skeptical of the relativity concept. I think that there's something more to be discovered there, and I think a lot of times it could be that we're stumbling upon places where it just doesn't add up like they thought because we have an incomplete notion, or the math was bullshit, or there's another phenomenon that's real, but it's not exactly that thing that they're saying. In fact, could I say, have you seen the thing with Terrence Howard? Is that what his name is?
Yeah,
the guy that went
I
on
saw
Joe Rogan recently.
I saw
What do you think about all that?
Saw a
Did you give
decent amount of it. I think
Check
I
on that
think
yet?
I didn't see all of it, but I saw a decent amount and I saw a bunch of clips. Yeah, I think a lot of what he's saying has merit. I think he's also like really wrong about some of the stuff, right? But like when he brought up the periodic element charts, like Walter Russell's periodic chart, like that's totally
Right.
legit. And Walter Russell predicted elements before they were discovered by using his chart,
Right.
which is insane. Like it should have immediately been updated across the board. He predicted them before they existed because he just used the frequency and the vibration. So that part's true. It's cool that he got that word out to millions of people. So I like that.
The reason I ask is specifically there's a lot of overlap between what he's saying and what you're saying, but he's saying, like,
Yeah.
for example, that there's no gravity and there's no relativity, there's no need for any of that, but he offers a different hypothesis,
Yeah.
which sounds a lot like yours, which is that it's basically just electricity.
Uh-huh.
Um,
But that's
but
it's like
then-
the draft
but
of
then-
electricity.
right, it's electric draft, and he's saying that explains everything, but then he's making models based on that shows it's all spheres. Like he's
Yeah,
he comes
exactly.
up with a spherical universe.
Yeah, but like when you like I did hear that clip too, and his like the way he got to that conclusion was he was saying that there's no such thing as straight lines, which I actually agree with in a different way, which is that there's no such thing as being at rest, so everything's vibrating. So technically, like, would a line really be straight if it's vibrating the whole way?
Yeah, it's all
Like,
waves.
yeah, exactly. So everything is
Waves and
waving,
spirals.
and then sacred geometry is the key. So this is the question. I'll just cut to the chase real fast. Like either he's controlled op, or we would have a very interesting conversation. You see what I'm saying? Like either he just organically came to where he is, and then I think that I would maybe blow his mind with some stuff because he's going to see the sacred geometry in the geocentric model. All the planets move in that same exact sacred geometry from a geocentric model. And in the heliocentric model, it's just circles. So, but anyway, so like also, I am skeptical, but I would say I don't think that the like CIA puts out scientific misinformation in the form of actors. You know what I'm saying? So you can see that obviously our community is very skeptical when they start coming out with some of the truth. It's like, is it damage control? But I guess my overall assessment would be that I think it's a net positive regardless. He said that there was an ether. He brought up Michelson Morley. That's good, but he also
That's my next question's about that.
Yeah, he didn't say the full story about Michelson Morley though, right? He didn't say the stationary part. And like that isn't just a flat earther talking point. That's what happened, right? That's what Einstein said. That's what Albert Michelson said, Edward Morley said. That's what everyone that did the test knew about the test. That's just what happened, right? That's what the autobiography of Einstein says, right? It says like obviously the first option was that the Earth's not moving, and no one considered that an option because that would mean having to get rid of the Copernican theory. So that was actually very frustrating for me to hear him bring up the ether and then bring up Michelson Morley, but then like leave out the whole part of it, which is if you.
Well, he
bring the
basically,
ether back-
my takeaway was that he said that it seems like we just have a non-stationary ether.
Yeah, that's right. But that doesn't. Now they wanted to do that back then, right? Which like so there was like to have the ether moving with the Earth basically, and this is this is why the paper
That's
says
kind of my question. What's the problem with that? Why couldn't it be that?
yeah. But real fast, this is why the paper says it falsified the stationary ether, and that's why the anti-flatters get on my nerves so much because it doesn't say falsified ether, it says falsified stationary ether, which it did.
Right.
It did do that, and we completely agree, right? Because there was a little bit of a drift measured, so it can't be stationary.
Right.
But as to why, because the ether would have to be like tilted and wobbling, and then spinning, and then revolving, and then they didn't even know about some of these motions, and they didn't know about the fact that the Earth has to be flying through the galaxy, or that the galaxy was going like 1.2 million miles per hour. So the ether would have to be able to simultaneously move all those different vectors, which it fundamentally can't be doing that if it's a medium, right? If it's a medium that we're in, it can't be moving all of those vectors and sustaining EM. And so they put that
Why
idea.
not?
Well, because like just think about it logically. How can you have like an all-encompassing medium that's sustaining the electromagnetic waves that's moving all of those different vectors at the same time? Because there's only one place it can
But
be.
if it's terrestrially generated, like if the ether, like we're doing a terrestrial experiment with Michelson Morley, meaning that it's on Earth, so that would just mean that we haven't been able to find a stationary ether on Earth. So on Earth, the ether's moving with the Earth would be the
Well, but that's the
conclusion there.
That's the problem, right? Like, they were trying to detect the orbit terrestrially, right? And then they didn't even know about us moving through the galaxy and all that stuff. So that means like if there's a medium that sustains light or carries light, as the Earth is
Wait,
like,
they were trying to detect the orbit with Michelson-Morley?
yeah.
I thought they were already assuming the orbit, and they were trying to detect
Hmm.
a stationary ether.
Well, specifically, they were trying to use the Earth's orbit
Right.
by measuring its motion to show if the velocity of light was constant. So like they were using
In relation to a stationary ether.
yeah, but they weren't like trying to measure the ether. They were trying to see if the speed of light changed based on motion within the ether. So they assumed they assumed the ether, they assumed the motion. That's why they did it. It was actually like a brilliant idea because they're like, well,
Right.
in their mind, they were like, I know the Earth's orbiting, so this is a reliable motion we can use. Right?
So it cancels either one. Either the Earth is stationary, or the ether is not stationary. Those are the only two options.
Well, the ether is for sure not stationary regardless, because that's why their conclusion was correct. And that's why I think they knew more than people think they did, because Einstein came in and said that it was just an error because it did detect something, right? It did have an interference pattern. It detected a fringe shift. Einstein came in and said, "Oh no, it just must be an instrumental error, because if it's not an error, then my theory is wrong and I have no explanation." But dude, Albert Michelson denied that vehemently. He said it's not an error because it's over 10 times more precise than it needs to be. We know the error margin, and this is way bigger than the error margin, and we've tested the error margin extensively. So that we are detecting something, and that's why he spent like the next 30 years trying to figure it out, and he couldn't. And, then you get to Michelson, Gale, Pearson in like 25 or whatever. So anyway, long story short, like there was a drift measured. Now, then you go to Michelson, Gale, Pearson, and you can detect the sidereal rotation, right? The rate that the stars spin in the sky. So they had a prediction for Michelson-Morley about the orbit, and then they didn't get it. They got like 1/6 the value, so it couldn't have been the orbit that was causing it. And so that's what flipped all physics upside down. You get to Michelson, Gale, Pearson, they had a prediction for the rotation of the Earth, and it perfectly matched, like within 98% accuracy every single time, the rate at which they thought the Earth was rotating, right? So we were able to use the same thing, interferometry, assuming an ether, to detect the rotation of the Earth, but not the orbit. Now, if you step back and you combine those two, what that means is there's only one viable option to explain it. It's that the Earth isn't moving and there is a rotation, and it's that the sky is rotating around us. So if you don't have an orbit and you do have a rotation, but it's just the sky, then that can explain both tests perfectly. Stationary Earth, drift within the ether based on the vortex rotation. And that's called the Sagnac effect. And then, of course, Sagnac, who discovered that, he said it was a vortex in the ether. So that's a lot. That's obviously like a crash course in like a huge subject. But to me, the world is supposed to know that before they even graduate high school, and like no one knows it. So like watching Terrence Howard get in front of millions was like bittersweet in that sense. It's like people need to know what really happened. I don't know if he does or doesn't know, but yeah, I've seen them try to propose the idea that the ether moves with the Earth. I've read like a few papers back in the day, and they themselves were debunking it. They were like, but look here, how is it going to simultaneously move in multiple vectors, but then be able to sustain the light? Like as a medium, and it can't, right? Like logically. And then I'll stop ranting. This is a lot, but I have in a speech, I guess, or like a lecture from, I think it is a Stanford professor, but I'm not sure what school it is. And he talks about Michelson-Morley, and he said, actually, Michelson-Morley should have also detected the 500,000 mile per hour vector of us going through the galaxy with the sun, and our galaxy going 1.2 million miles per hour. They just didn't even know about those things at the time. So really, Michelson-Morley should have detected that as well. So what you would have had to do is you had to account for that motion through the universe, that motion through the galaxy, that motion around the sun, and you would have had to add them up like compounding vectors. And then you would have had to got the total.
If that's all moving through a stationary ether, right?
Yeah. I mean, like technically,
That's what you're saying. Yeah. So
yeah.
if it's stationary relative to all motion, then there's all of those different motions to take into account. The galaxy moving and all that. Yeah, it'd be like
They didn't even know about
insanely
them.
fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is the reason that the ether's been thrown out, right? There's not like some grand conspiracy of malevolence. It's not like these scientists wake up every day and they're like, we got to figure out a way to make sure no one knows about the ether. Like in their mind, there literally can't be an ether. You know what I'm saying? Like, there just can't be one because we know that the Earth is doing all this motion. And see, Terrence Howard, he didn't explain that. Like now, like I said, I haven't seen the whole thing, but I saw the ether part. Unless he talks about it again later, he doesn't. He doesn't explain that at all. And this is the same thing with. Have you seen the guys going viral with the Malaysian flight videos?
I haven't seen that, but I listened to the whole Joe Rogan thing, and he did go into the ether a little bit. He basically is postulating that it's a like a result of the arrangement of everything according to like if you open the flower of life correctly. He says there's a angle of incidence 120 degrees. He says it a million times.
I saw that part. I saw
Gets
that
to the way he talks about it. But then he's saying like the ether that Mikkels and Morley were looking for is actually like a constant emanation of like whatever the field that it's the local field that it's in or something like that. So we're within the vicinity of this local field in the terrestrial environment.
Yeah, I don't know.
So he's saying it's basically just moved like so that it takes into account all the rotation and the wobble, and so it's basically like relative to the Earth's.
Well, look, this is the problem. This is the problem with that. Michelson Gale Pearson detects the rotation. We use the same thing for ring laser gyros. So if the ether is just moving with it, then why are we detecting the rotation, right? So it would have to somehow not be moving with the rotation of the Earth, but then moving with all the other motions. Because we detect the rotation as if the Earth were or as if the ether was stationary, like perfectly. It matches predictions perfectly. Now they're assuming it's the rotation of the Earth, right? But the way we got that was we see how fast the sky spins. It's called sidereal rotation. So like on the globe, the stars look like they spin around us because we're spinning. So like we got 15 degrees per hour roughly, right? And
wait a minute, I'm sorry to pause you there. I want to make sure I got you straight. So you're saying that interferometry, they're able to detect the rotation, but not the orbit.
Exactly.
Is that it?
Yep. And that's called, so you have Michelson-Morley, that's the orbit. And then you have Michelson-Gale-Pearson, and that's the rotation in like 1925. So like the idea of like, I don't know exactly what Terrence said, I'll have to watch it, but like the idea that the ether is moving with the Earth can't work because we can detect the rotation, right? And like perfectly. You know, like they made a prediction they were within 98% accuracy each time. And that's because like the sidereal rotation isn't like exactly constant. Which is also a problem for the globe, right? Because if you think it's
out. I was unaware. What's the name of that second one?
Michelson-Gale-Pearson.
Gale-Pearson.
Yeah. And this is what's so funny. Whenever the sidereal rotation changes, they have to say that the Earth is changing how fast it rotates. And they do. Like you can go look it up. Look up like the shortest day ever recorded, like 2 years ago. They'll say the Earth sped up. It's like what? Or maybe not, right? Maybe the sky is, but so yeah, I don't know. I did watch a bunch of it. He talks about sacred geometry. He says basically the negative space between the circles that are overlapping is what he's using to formulate all these other shapes, and he thinks that's how you find like the elements, and that is it's fascinating. Right, I saw that part because I started watching it the whole thing, but I only got like 45 minutes in or something.
Yeah, check it out. I'd like to hear your debunk of anything he was wrong on. And if you'll entertain one more question, then I'll back off. If nobody else has another question, they're anxiously waiting to ask. I have the last one.
Okay.
You've been humoring me, and I appreciate it. I got schooled. I never heard of Michelson-Gale-Pearson yet, so now I got something to learn about. That rules. Schooled, Glober schooled. I got schooled. Gale-Pearson. Based. Okay, I'm going to drop it in the side chat, the live chat. Is that what we're calling it? Live stream stage side chat. I got a link. I've heard you say that the South Pole, the Antarctica 24-hour sun videos have been debunked. But I've only seen one get debunked. But what about this one? Is this one debunked too? Do you know about this one? It's 8K, 360 VR, shot with a 360 camera. You can see the sun in the sky for a full rotation. It never sets at the base in Antarctica. What's your answer
Where'd you say
to
you
that
put it?
video? It's in the side chat of the live stream that we're in. I'll put it in the audience text too if you want. Easier for everybody to find.
I got it. Let me also show it. Whoa.
And so this is a 360 video where you can even like move it around. You can
I think I have seen it. I'm just gonna show the audience. Okay. All right, cool. And then am I sharing with? No, I'm not sharing with you guys. Let me share with.
Maybe you have a debunk on this one. I'm looking for it. Maybe you guys can school me again.
Change.
I just don't know about this one.
Back. No. Back. All right. All right. Let's watch it. Okay. Yeah. So this one you technically can allegedly see it. I haven't like fully broke this down. We did pull it up on Globebusters though. Because I pointed out this is the one they claim is like the home run or whatever. So obviously
it's only a minute and a half long.
Yeah, if you look at the sun right here, like that looks pretty crazy. But I guess you could say it's.
You can also look at the shadows. They do perfect circles around all the objects on the ground.
Yeah, that's something. Somebody else was claiming they saw the shadows not match. I don't know though. Like right here, no. And then obviously this part right here, just where it's stitched. Somewhere. Like right there, yeah. That's obviously like 360. See the line there?
Right. Is that where the two lenses?
Yeah, I guess so. Right? I guess so. Yeah. But yeah, so like I haven't looked at this one enough to know how it was faked or if it was faked or anything like that. I think 100% that this can be faked, but I'm not going to claim I know it's faked. I think pretty much our position is what our position is at this point is that there were things that were shown to us as if it were 24/7 sun, and it was faked. There's been the two most famous ones. You'll see this one has 22,000 views, 9,000 subs. The two most famous ones shown to us, and this is obviously not in 8K, this is terrible quality, right? But the two most famous ones shown to us were faked. And so at this point, we're like, well, we know they can be faked. And the fact that they're faking it, I'm just going to go and tell you, I can pretty much speak for every flat earther. We're not going to accept like some video that could be faked at this point. Just a second. But as to this one, I don't know. I need a drink. I don't know if it is or how it would be or anything like that. The other part that's really sketchy is there are 24-hour cameras that the government has. They have a research facility in Antarctica, and they have all these different cameras that are 24 hours. And when you go to their website to look at it, it cuts out like 8 hours every day. And so it's like really weird, right? Because on a flat Earth, you would expect the sun to come up, and then you expect the sun to set, right? But on a globe, it should go 360 like this, right? This right here is allegedly showing. And so when we go look at the government videos, they like, because it's supposedly like constantly being recorded, right? Like basically live. And it always cuts out like 8 hours. So when you look at it, it shows the shadow go from one side, loop around, and then fall down, just like you would expect on a flat Earth. So we've called them and tried to figure it out. And they said they don't have the bandwidth to do it. And then we're like, okay, well, send it the next day. Something about satellites and bandwidth or something. I don't know. So I'm saying all that not to divert from this video. I'm saying that to say you can understand our skepticism. It's not like we're just like really thirsty and desperately trying to avoid it. It's like, look at like what is the sun doing right there? Like what is that?
Can I throw in my theory about this one?
Yeah, sure.
It's like what it's doing is like a time lapse video. So
but look at that. It looks crazy.
That
looks crazy, bro.
Well,
yeah,
so
it's pretty low on the horizon.
In this video, like the sun looks like it's got like it's like almost how it looks when you have a solar. I think it's lacking a lot of rays. Like we look through this with eggshells, and he pulled up another 360 video, and the sun had way more rays. So it's not because of it's a 360 camera. It's clearly like it's way too round. You know what I mean? Like there's no rays coming out of it.
I don't get what you're saying. You're saying this is a fake video? Fake sun?
I'm saying that I've never seen the sun look like that before.
Well, I mean, Big Tech, do you agree that stuff like this can technically be faked?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose. I mean, like, you could be fake, dude. You could be AI.
Okay, okay. But like, so what happened was when we and by the way, I'm not the kind of guy that would just be like, oh, it could be faked and just completely ignore it. Like, I've looked at all of them. The fact that there's like this one supposedly that like the sun looks really weird to me. Like it just like even right here at the very beginning of the video, if you go to the very beginning right here, like the sun looks like watch, it's about to get huge. I
Yeah,
guess
that's weird.
like watch this. Like what is this? What is this? That's wild. I mean, I get it. You're gonna say it's the clouds. I get it. But it's like, look at that, bro. That's crazy. Like I've
It's
never
just like,
seen,
but what does the sun look like if you just
I've
do a
never
video
seen
of
this.
little
I've never
pieces?
seen the sun do this in my life, bro.
But what's your point? That like they're faking a video so they made the sun look weird in their fake video?
No, well, I think if it's
Never.
easier to fake if you can have portions of like good portions of it being blocked out.
I have a
Hmm.
question.
But what about the shadows? I mean, just like it just looks pretty. It looks pretty real to me. It just looks looks real.
It looks good. It doesn't
But
look real.
the follow up question is like, well, why don't you just go here? I mean, I saw you like shooting at Elon. Hey, send me to space. Wouldn't it have been easier? Like, couldn't you go to the space? Like you yourself?
I
They
could
would've,
go
like,
to the one
just go check it
that's-
out.
Yeah, it's like 40K. But I would go. And I was
Do
actually
the
gonna
fundraiser. Let's send Witsit. Go to Antarctica, check it out himself, and he'll watch the
maybe.
24-hour sun, and then he'll have to
I would
tell us what he
want
thought.
I would want someone to go with me. Because I mean, you may think this sounds crazy, but it's not off the table for me that some accident would happen.
Oh yeah.
So
Right.
like if at least
You don't make it home.
yeah, if like multiple people with me, I think it's less likely that they're like Austin slipped on ice and
Yeah, they both slipped on ice, got eaten by a
yeah, exactly.
leopard seal.
And like, cause dude, I'm saying
Look at those.
like that's a legitimate concern when the government has hit Antarctica the way they have, and then they have 24-hour cameras, and none of them show a 24-hour sun. Like,
Oh, and it says at
government's-
the end who this was filmed by. It might not be hard to get a hold of that guy and like get him on for an interview. At the very
Now-
end, it says filmed by Anthony Powell. Maybe get a hold of Anthony Powell.
That's not a bad idea.
If
I'm
you
ha-
do
I'm
this-
having a-
That's the thing.
I'm having a former NASA employee who was stationed in Antarctica for 6 months. He's supposed to be coming on my show.
Yeah, sweet. Get the astronauts, get the Antarctica liars. But if he says he's filmed that thing, maybe you can. make him see.
I took a screenshot. Well, let me ask you a question. If you went down there and you didn't see the sun for 24 hours, do you agree it would debunk the globe?
Dude, I'll go with you. I'll go as the skeptic. You go as the, and we'll do a debate under a 24-hour sun. We'll talk about it. I'm down. I'll help you do the fundraiser. I would love to go in Antarctica, even if we die. I would
Yeah, but I just
risk
have
my life going.
A family, man. But like, I do want to go. I've been saying for a long time I want to go. But like, my plan to go was to keep it under wraps. Like, not like,
Mm.
yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think we should go. I think we should go for sure.
dude, I'm down to go, dude.
We actually really could. Honestly, it's not that hard.
yeah. So
40K
like,
piece.
obviously,
So we need $100,000. Big deal.
yeah, because like, you don't want to go. Obviously, you don't want to just go on any guided tour that takes you to the edge. You can't even see the 24-hour sun there.
No,
You
we
have
want to
get-
go to that base at the right day when there should be 24-hour sun, and then
Yeah.
we'll hang out. We'll live stream the whole thing.
I don't know if you can go to this one, but there's one that where you should see it. Like there's one that is open to tourists that you should see it. But you know what's so funny, bro? We were already looking into all of it. We're looking into all the details. It's like super complicated. Like you have to have very specific things and backups, and it's like no, you don't just get to just go. You know, it's like a whole thing. But we were looking into all the rules and all the stuff that you have to bring, and we were thinking, dude, we need to like really call and ask them about this. But what if they have some type of rule that you're not allowed to leave your tent at night, right? Because that sounds crazy, but Antarctica is pretty dangerous, right? So
Yeah, if we get down there and they block us from looking at the sun.
yeah, but see,
They're like,
and
"No,
what's
you have to go inside with no windows for 8 hours.
yeah, or
Like,
what?
what?
And but I think there will be daylight. But what sucks is like that wouldn't like obviously all Globers like that wouldn't be evidence of anything, right? Like so we would just be screwed. So we would need to know the specifics. But I'm 100% down. I know Jaren's down, Dave's down. Like all these claims that were like common and stuff. Like we think that they're like so funny because obviously.
Well, dude, if you and I were both going, we could raise money from both sides. The flat earthers who want to prove that it's true and the debunkers, everybody could donate. And we're going to get a final answer one way or the other. This is a definitive test. We both agree that if we go down there and we see the sun for 24 full hours, it could only mean one thing. And,
and what I'm asking you is do you agree that if we don't see the sun's not in the sky for 24 hours doing a 360 around us, that it debunks the globe?
Yeah. I think if we got there and didn't see what we expect, that would poke a sinking the ship size hole.
Yeah.
In the globe theory.
Hey guys, Trips here. Do y'all mind if I chime in real quick?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Hey, okay. So on this deal, I have a theory that you probably wouldn't even get there because if they are protecting this information, like no way in hell a civilian's going to go film a 24-hour sun. They're going to know who you are.
Well, that'd be a spicy story too. We raised the money. It's a public thing. We did a GoFundMe and we were on our way and they blocked us.
Shut down.
Like that would be incredible.
I'd be really interested to see what happened as you go through the process. And they're like, okay, who are you? Why are you coming? Because I guarantee you they're going to vet the shit out of people who are trying to sniff around down there and be like, what's your intent? What are you bringing? And they'd be like, oh, no cameras. It'd be interesting to find out. That's just
well, you guys know about the final experiment, right? So there's
I do not.
There's this guy that was doing this very thing. Let me show the audience. So obviously this has been brought up many times and people have even raised money and one guy literally took off with the money. Okay. Stole the money. And then there's another guy that's a pilot and he said that
we could do that too, dude. We could just take the money and just
never. So he said there's this one guy who said he was like a pilot and he was gonna either fly us or help us use his airliner and charter a plane to fly directly over the South Pole and circumnavigate and all that stuff. And made this whole video, got millions of views. Everyone's like, see, the flat earthers are coming, they know that blah blah blah. We reached out to him and said, let's do it. And immediately started backtracking. And he raised a fundraiser to make it look like he was raising money, and we're just scared and wouldn't raise the money. He's like, I'm not flying. I'm not tearing you the airliner. I'm not helping you charter a flight. You'll have to find your own airliner for someone that will do it. But I need to be paid this much money, and then I'll ride on the plane. All this weird stuff. And we're like, so you're just lying to get clicks. So then this guy did it.
Yeah, I remember this guy now. I remember this guy because I was sending my buddy videos about like all the flights, like trying to find a flight over Antarctica. I was like, you can't, motherfucker, and
he's
like,
bald.
gotcha.
I don't trust bald.
Like, oh yeah, there's
well, the guy that's doing this
gonna
isn't
do it,
bald.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so this is a preacher. So it's all been so sketchy. He emailed us and stuff. This has been anonymous this whole time here, right? Like no one knows who's behind it. And they're like, they have revealed the location, right? And they have all of us saying like, yeah, the 24-hour sun 360 would be a problem for the globe. And none of us think you'll see it. And how convenient that like you're not allowed to really go there. And that all the videos are being faked, blah, blah, blah. And so then there's some clips, like I'm in this clip, right? Same thing. And this is where they really reveal what the experiment is. So the location and then the experiment, which I called Dave immediately, said it's just going to be 24-hour sun. What else could it be? Then he reveals who he is, and it's this guy. It's a preacher. And then we find out like he's been working with Mattoon this whole time, lying to everyone, pretending he didn't know. Mattoon and FTFE have been knowing him and working with him, but lying to everyone and lying to us that they didn't know him and trying to set us up to do all this weird stuff. And then lied to another like basically preacher on a live stream, like he's a flat earther, lied to him. And then he's been like he got in all this trouble for some really sketchy stuff recently. And so long story short, it's like super sketchy, right? It's like all kinds of lies involved. And I'm like, you have to understand our perspective is like, we think you would never see the 24-hour sun. We think that if anything, you'd see the sunset. We also think that if that's the case, would they really let us go see the sunset? And then so it's like a whole big risk thing. It's like a perfect cover story because Antarctica is so dangerous. So if something happens, like, is it really gonna sound that crazy? Like, no. If a plane crashes in Antarctica, of course it does. It's Antarctica. That's why people don't go, right?
Yeah, we
So
should go on a ship.
yeah, I'm not all that to say like I'm down to do it, but not with anything that's sketchy. No one lying,
Right.
no one being deceptive, no one because like money's been stolen and I have like, my second baby's about to be born. Like I'm not playing any weird games with people that are lying. So
I got 2 of them myself. I think you and I are actually good candidates. We're both public people. I mean, I've been on the internet for a couple of years for things that are unrelated to flat Earth. I'm not just a flat Earth grifter or something like, or a debunking grifter or something. I'm just skeptical. So we have a skeptic. We'd have both sides represented.
no, I think it's cool.
I'm adventurous. I've been around the world.
And like
I'd
we
go
would, I
again.
mean, they said you can bring cameras. We looked into it. There's a Jaren keeps showing what the base is, whatever it is. You can bring cameras. The main one, I forgot what it's called. Does anyone in the chat know the base that this was supposed to go to and that Jaren's been showing on a stream, and I can show it to you. It's definitely like the best place to go. See if the chat knows, but um, yeah, like then we saw it's like it has all these tents laid out, right? Like you sleep in your tent. And this trip was supposed to be a 3-day trip. They said they'd pay for one of the flat earthers, so they're basically wanting me to go to pay for it, and then wanting me to go with like some anti-flat earther on a flight after they've been caught lying like 10 times. And I'm like, this is super sketchy.
Mm.
I'll go with like my homie, right? Like I'll go with Jaren or something, and we can both be there. We can both have cameras or whatever. But so then I was thinking, well, do I try to do it discreetly because of what the other guy said? Like, do I try to, but no, because I'll still have to submit my name to them, and it's not like I can really go there like James Bond or something, right? So anyway,
Right.
long story short, like there's a lot to it, but dude, if the Earth's a globe, I would love to know. See, people think that I wouldn't. I would love to know. Because like,
Well, then you'd just be on level 2 of the figuring out the mysteries because you'd still have all these questions that need answering. You'd be like, okay, well, it's not flat. Well, then what the hell's going on? Is it a globe, but everything's going around the globe? It's still
yeah,
might
yeah,
be
like I would,
geocentric,
yeah, for
a
sure.
geocentric globe.
Yeah, like
you'd just be on
geocentric
another
ether.
level.
That's what I'm saying. Like people, you see it, but most people think I would like freak out. I wouldn't freak out. I would come out and say it immediately. And then be like, okay, now we're closer to. Now it's okay if it's a globe. It's not seemingly not moving, and there's an ether. So let's figure out what's going on. But I just don't see it. I've gone out onto the Earth and seen stuff from really, really far away consistently, and we shoot radio waves tens of thousands of miles. And every time I look into anything, the globe has just been debunked, but then comes up with some made-up story that no one can falsify that conveniently saves the globe again. And like, yeah, it just isn't a globe. Like as far as I can tell, lie detector test, no hesitation. Gun to my head. Geocentrism, almost no hesitation. Flat Earth, just a slight hesitation. That's the honest truth. Gun to my head, bro. And so that's pretty intense. But yeah, long story short, I would love. Obviously, I would.
Yeah, I don't have the impression that you might. I said it to you pretty frankly before. I don't think that you're just bullshitting about what you think is real, but I think it's pretty common for people to be able to talk themselves into things that are erroneous and really believe them. So I don't think that you're
Sure, yeah.
like that's just my impression. For me, that's my opinion of what if gun to my head what I think's going on. I think Witsit's an honest guy, but I think he's making some honest mistakes. That's what I think, and I could be wrong about that. But I don't think that you're just an outright liar. I think that people are just wrong a lot. That's very human to just be totally wrong about something and really think you're right. People do it all the time. So doesn't make you a bad person or a dishonest jerk or anything like that. So I don't. Even if you were totally wrong and we disagreed forever and we fought about it, I wouldn't have to hate you for that. I don't hate people for being wrong. But there are some people who know that they're lying. And those are the guys who I can't stand them.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I see that on the globe more than anything. Like, but the way that the globe side views it, like, well, the ends justify the means, and I know the Earth is a globe, and I know flat Earth is wrong. So if I have to occasionally lie or be deceptive or misrepresent them, it's fine, like it's justified. Like these flat Earth debunkers, that's what they do. And I tried to tell them, bro, if you're being honest, you think flat Earth is like dangerous, like the way that you go about it makes more flat earthers than I ever could. Because if someone looks into it and they're like, how come all the famous people that are propped up to debunk flat Earth lie? You know, that's weird. So, but yeah,
it's
I think
not cool.
I think we agree on that. What's up?
For me, I've loved this conversation and kind of being a fly on the wall. I'm kind of newer here in this community, but I have been following the flat Earth. I hate calling it flat Earth. I really fucking do, and I'm really now at the point where I'm talking to friends and family, without trying to like come off as some fucking crazy person who's lost my mind.
Try to
which,
keep
I
the
can
try to
sound
keep the
like.
f
Yeah, it's
bombs to a minimum, please. It's all good, but just
Pardon me.
It's all good,
I
it's
didn't
all
mean to go there. Excuse me. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. So I've really appreciated the honest dialogue back and forth, and it's nice because some of these debates I've watched, it's like some of these guys just go so unhinged, and it's like, man, this is not constructive. And like the conversation of back and forth between Witsit, between you and the other gentleman, I think
Tech.
it's Big
Big
Tech.
Tech.
Like this has been a very healthy dialogue, and I really appreciate the conversation a lot.
cool, man. Thanks.
Right
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Like I think Big Tech believes what he thinks, and that's all I like. As long as someone's not lying, then I don't care. Like you're cool with me. Like I don't care if we disagree. I usually like talking to people I disagree with. It's just like lying. I don't like lying. It gets on my nerves. And something else I don't like is like I give people a lot of leeway with this though, because their initial response is to be like really. It sounds so stupid that they're very dismissive, and then they're like you. And then if they can tell you're smart, they're like you must be lying, and then they get really aggressive and they kind of take a bunch of stuff. And I'm cool. I will completely wipe the slate clean because I get that it's like a visceral initial reaction or whatever. But like the part that is really annoying is how there's this huge group of people that are super arrogant about this and super condescending and very dismissive. And like when it comes to flat Earth, you can say and do whatever to them, and it's okay. But they're the ones that don't even know a fraction of the stuff that the flat earthers do. You know what I'm saying? Like the flat earthers know
Yep.
way more, and then the flat earthers had to like get fired.
Yeah, that
and
reminds me. Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say I appreciated that you brought up on that debate you did the other day about heliocentrism. You said that don't you know that Dunning-Kruger works both ways, and that's true. And there's also another thing it's not exactly Dunning-Kruger, where it's like Dunning-Kruger is like the dumber you are, the more you think you're right. You think you know more than you do because of how ignorant you are. Sort of essentially, and vice versa. The smarter you are, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and the more you might doubt yourself and have insecurity
Exactly.
in your position based on how much you actually do know. But there's another thing too, where sometimes the cleverest people, like people with high, I don't know if you call it IQ or whatever, but high reasoning faculty, they're really, really good at making arguments. Like I talked to some, like call them internet autists or whatever like that. They are absolutely convinced of the most cockamamie type of stuff many times because they're so good at reasoning, and they have reasoned themselves into an erroneous position that they will never leave because they can argue it so well. Like nobody can battle them at this situation that they've got themselves into, an unassailable position of hardcore logic, defending something that's incorrect. And you could have two different people that are just as equally smart and really good at logic, and they'll fight all day long, and they'll both have opposing positions. So being perfect and like impeccable with your logic and having high reasoning faculty does not preclude you from being totally incorrect. In fact, sometimes it just makes you harden into an incorrect position. So it's really, really tricky. We can talk ourselves into linguistically, or we can wordsmith ourselves into all sorts of falseness because we're so freaking clever. But that's just kind of how it
Would
goes.
you
It's
say
been
the
my
same
experience.
can go would you say that goes both ways for like globe people who are just so convinced that they just talk
Yeah, it's both
themselves?
sides. Sure.
Yeah,
Some people, they're
okay,
just like, they're
for
assuming
sure.
like, oh, I know so many things. I know about this and that and that, and I've watched every single Carl Sagan thing, and I memorized it all. And it's like, okay, well, and now they're convinced. Like you can never dig them out of that knowledge pit that they dug themselves into.
Don't think about this though. Don't you think though? Like I actually agree with what you're saying, but and actually this is why I check myself all the time. I step back and be like, because I have an aptitude for debating, so it's like I always step back and be like, could I be wrong? I genuinely try to always think about that. But now when I just like think about the heliocentric model, I get sick to my stomach. Like it doesn't resonate with me at all. I don't feel truth at all. I just think it sounds insane. That's the genuine truth. But one thing that is important about this is that the group that's over here, they had to be able to swallow their pride and change their mind. In fact, a lot of flat earthers were like space junkies. A lot of them.
Yeah.
In fact, more than you would think, because that's the group that it was already would like look into all this kind of nerdy stuff, and that's kind of required to figure out flat Earth or geocentrism. So there's tons of people here that were like grew up as complete space junkies and like absolutely did not want the Earth to be flat, and they had to do it. There's another part of it too. It's like to be a flat earther, it comes with like major societal consequences. Like it's not a good thing at all. Like trust me, you're not gonna go pick up a bunch of girls telling them that you're a flat earther. You're not going to get like a great job when you're like, oh, by the way, I think the earth is flat, right? Like you're going to get ostracized.
unless you meet another flat earther at that interview and your boss is like, yo, this guy's just like me.
Maybe, yeah. It could give you a
but
rare
usually
thing.
not. You're right.
So it's like, it's like, I know lots of people, even some pretty prominent people that are flat earthers.
You go to the yoga studio and you meet some of these crystal girls and stuff and tell them that you're into flat earth. They might be like, whoa, let's go. I'm going to go on a date. You never know.
And girls is a little different. I think that if you have confidence and you can be funny and stuff, like it doesn't matter. But
yeah. They're like, ooh, tell me more. You know some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You seem cool.
Girls are more likely to follow, frankly. But like, I guess what I'm saying is, you had to be strong to do it, certainly to publicly say it. Like that part really can't be disputed. Like just go look at any post I make. And I've started blocking people, but like the stuff that's said to me is insane. Like I don't really care. I'm just saying that it's like, it's actually different than any other subject. Like almost no other subject gets what flat earth does. So in that sense, you have to at least admit there's a lot of flat earthers, certainly some that haven't even come out publicly, that like would love to just be able to put this behind them and be like, oh, I'm convinced it's a globe again. It just doesn't happen. So I think there's a major variable in this. Like there are flat earthers that heard about flat earth and fought it for 2 years. Like Eddie Bravo says that from what he's seen, the average is 6 months. It takes like 6 months of someone really looking into it before they can like admit it. And there's something to that. And that's weird, right? If there's a globe, the more you look into it, the more you should be convinced it's a globe. But like the opposite happens. The more you learn about it, the less you're convinced. Now this is generalized, but yeah,
it was 2 years for me personally, just from my own testimony. It was. I started going down the rabbit hole, and then I was like, "Dude, you are out of your mind." And I kind of started talking myself back out of it when I started talking to people, and they were like, "Bro, dude," but then I couldn't shake it, and something inside of me, my entire life, like it just never, like you said, resonated. I always, like from the time I was a little kid, like, oh, you mean I can dig a hole to China, or they're upside down and I'm right side up? I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me, ever. And so finally, and I'm a truth seeker. That's what brought me here. I'm always in search of I just want to know, it's like they say, what about the truth? It's like a lion. If you set it free, it will defend itself. So I know it's out there in the wild defending itself, and I'm just looking for it, and I have been my entire life. And that's how I got here. And it did take me about 2 years of honest to God, just research and listening. And I'm like, it's not a ball. We're not on a magical spinning space ball. We're just not. And that's where I'm at. And I don't know. I don't have the answers. I'm not claiming to. I'm just saying that's where I'm at personally.
Yeah, the reason is because it's the preponderance of evidence. Like everyone's a flat earther because of the preponderance of evidence, meaning like all of it holistically. And globe earthers are like, if they hear one thing, like the stars in the south move the other way, even though that literally is what's expected, but they're like, okay, Earth's a globe, right? It's a totally different approach. So the reason it's going to be really hard to just get a flat earther to flip over, it's like, well, I still have lots of stuff that need answers. Like there are lots of stuff, and then you look into it like when the mainstream lied repeatedly to convince people it was a globe. Then you look into the history of it, and it's like the Jesuits and the Catholic Church push all this propaganda to convince everyone the Earth is a spinning globe. And like flat earthers know all that. They know that the people that proposed heliocentrism were esoteric sun worshippers. Literally, like they were occultists that believed the sun was a god, and adopted the central fire idea from like Egyptians and ancient esoteric beliefs, and were sun worshippers. And Kepler, from Kepler's laws of how the planets move, worshiped the sun basically, and like said that the sun was singing a heavenly song, that made all the other planets move around it, um, like a celestial heavenly song as like a deity basically. And then, long story short, like that's super weird and super creepy. That isn't that's not science, that's weird. And then you look into NASA and it's like, oh well, they help program their computers with Sanskrit. They name all their missions after different gods. Like it's all very weird and occultish. And the average person doesn't know any of that. The average person's never watched The Principle. The average person's never watched heliosorcery. They've never, so like a flat earther, it's not like you can just Men in Black gun them or pin them. It's not like they're just gonna forget everything. It's like, nah, we see it, and that's why it takes people 6 months or a year or whatever, because eventually they just can't deny it. That's literally like every flat earther here's experience. Like I would venture to say, every flat earther here, it's just like that every day you wake up, it's something new, and you're like, okay, look, oh, like this is what happens, bro. I'll stop. It's been a long show, but I'll tell you, this is what actually happens in our group, saying ether cosmology. Okay, so I always get the best globe evidence. Someone brings it to me, Glober brings it to me because they think they can stump me or whatever. It's like this game to them, and when I hear it, I'm like, I get excited. I'm like, whoa, dude, this actually sounds like good evidence for the globe. And then what we do is we look into it, or say like relativity or whatever. Every time we look into it, at the bottom of the rabbit hole, it either refutes the globe or it is just like blatantly lied about to claim as proof. Every time, every single time. And it's like, when you experience that reoccurring thing, it would be like trying to convince someone that Jewish supremacy is not a thing or something, right? Or whatever. Like, and to keep it just there without any details, the very small ideology that isn't popular or whatever, like to be, YouTube friendly, but it's like you're not going to convince someone to not know what they know, to unsee what they see, to not know about like 5 years of research. Like it's just not going to happen. And when you first hear some other conspiracies, they sound crazy, then you keep researching it and you're like, dang it. So anyway, I think you guys get it.
I have to ask you something. Are you familiar with the Solomon Asch conformity experiment?
No. Solomon
Oh my
Asch
God.
conformity.
Yes, here I'll link it for you, man, because you will. I'm surprised, but I think you'll really enjoy this. It's basically about like human psychology and how groupthink, and basically you can peer pressure people. Like if the whole group is like saying like A, and this person's isolated and saying B, eventually they're going to come over and say A because they want to be in the group. It's really interesting.
Yeah, that is actually. It's kind of what it's absolutely a phenomenon in human psychology. That's the tricky part, is once you get human psychology involved, it gets really wild. And based on what you just said about the the Jewish thing or whatever, some people, what I perceive from the flat earth thing is it's like analogous to, like, you find out that there's something fishy going on, but what I see is, like, I know a lot of people that are, investigating that, and there's a lot of different theories, and sometimes you get to this kooky realm where it's like they're demons and they're being influenced by Satan. And
I get you. Yeah.
And it's like, no. It's actually there's something very practical going on.
You think if flat Earth is like a step too far? Like it's
right. Yeah.
It's
exactly.
where you go off
sometimes.
The deep end. Yeah, I get it.
Right. There's enough the deep end level.
And I've thought about this though. I thought about that as well. It just, to me, I think that's what it is. I think that's what
I think there is something going on. I think there's more than meets the eye happening, and we are discovering some interesting things. And maybe it's just the flat earthers who are discovering it for us, and questions are being asked that otherwise wouldn't be asked, and that's great. But sometimes we're leaping to conclusions over a lot of the blanks that we're not filling in. And the conclusions we're leaping to might be erroneous. There might be good investigations that need to take place into, like, well, is relativity really real? Is that a scam? Like, what do we actually know about gravity? Is there even this big G gravity thing? Is that just kind of like hocus pocus? Like, these are actually really good questions. But I've debunked gravity, therefore Earth flat. It's like, wait a minute, whoa. Like, that's what it seems like sometimes to me.
But I think what it really is, it's like, okay, this is crazy. We're seeing really, really, really far. And then the claim is that, like, the light's bending and we're not really seeing that far. And it's like, In
Hmm.
theory, could something like that happen? Sure, right? But when you go out and you see like a lighthouse from 40 miles away, or like you see like mountains from 120 miles away, like when you do it yourself, you're like, this is crazy, right? Like you know that you're seeing the mountains, bro. Like you're looking at them, you know that you're seeing them, right? Like almost every flat earther went out and like looked at stuff. So that's what gets it started. And then you're like, but wait, then you start hearing all the arguments. It's like, what? Wait, what about relativity, right? And like, cause you're like, oh well, it's like if it's flat, is it moving? Well, it's not moving, right? And then you go look into stuff like Nicholas Morley, then you'll hear someone say um, like relativity and gravity is true, which means the Earth can't be flat because everything would implode in on itself and blah blah blah. So then you look into gravity and you find out, no, this is completely bunk. This is all lies, and because they need the heliocentric model, they prompt all this up. Like that's usually how it goes, right? Like it's like as a flat earther, you're supposed to know everything apparently, and so you get all these alleged evidences of the globe. You have to research them, and you find out that they're all lies. It definitely doesn't go the other way. It doesn't. It's not like someone finds out relativity is not true, and they think the Earth's flat. It's like someone finds out we're seeing way, way too far, and then all this other stuff has to be explained. Well, then if the Earth wasn't a sphere, what about that? Like, how would that work? How would that make sense? Well, what about this evidence? And just coincidentally,
Look,
every time you get to the bottom of it, every single time that you get to the bottom of it, it's like complete scientism, pseudoscience, BS, propaganda, lied about, or the evidence actually like refutes the globe, but was twisted and hidden, and like you know, go ahead.
light just
Imported
always
Nazi
bends in a way that makes
scientists,
it look like
you know.
flat.
That's the best sales pitch. Q up. What's up?
I'm just saying that light always bends in a way that makes it look like the Earth is flat, but it's not. It's a globe.
Yeah. Like why are the mountains not up in the sky? If you guys are telling me that mountains like just get lifted up over the curve, why do they always stop right where they would if it was flat? Dude, when you go look at it, you just know like, dude, it's there. And then you're like, well, how could they pull something off this big, you know? And then you think about it, you're like, well, it's really not that hard. You just have like a couple federal governments. That's it. That's all it is. It's just federal governments. People are like, no, SpaceX is private. No, it's not. It gets hundreds of millions from the government. They work directly with the government. The government has full access to all of their computers. Like Elon straight up admitted that like they would never have gotten to space if it wasn't for NASA. NASA basically runs it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just all it's very crazy.
What do you think about there's I don't mean to get into politics here, but Elon visited the Oval Office when Trump was still in there, and there's a picture of him, and Trump's sitting there with like a big shit-eating grin, and Elon's kind of just standing there, arms to the side, like doesn't look very enthusiastic. And Trump put out a tweet. He's like, "Oh, here's Elon Musk begging for more tax dollars, for his rocket ships to nowhere." And I was like, "Whoa." Is he telling us like, hey, yeah, I know exactly the fucking game here, and these rocket ships are literally going nowhere. That's why they go up and then arc and come back down, like
That's pretty crazy. I've never heard of that. Just try to keep an eye on the weak words. I call them weak words. And I need 20
Family friendly show.
I need push-ups
Yeah.
for each.
was I dropping? I'm sorry.
It's
I
all
have a
good.
mouth. I apologize.
It's all good. But you know what'll help with that if you make yourself do 20 push-ups every time.
Yes, sir.
Like an inside joke. Everyone knows that I'm like, all right, you're at 40, by the way. It's funny, but nah, I call them weak words. So I got to get strong. Do some push-ups. What's up, you up?
Your robot polisher, Witsit, word salad video is freaking hilarious.
Yeah. It's, robot polisher is great. Yeah, so we can wrap this up. It's a lot of meta, but like it's like pretty simple, right? Like we just suspended belief. And I will say there's lots of things that would sound crazy, right? You can fall down the rabbit hole of germ theory. You can fall down the rabbit hole of what they give babies when they're born. And when you first hear those things, that sounds crazy. There's one side that does really, really diligent, time consuming research and digs all the way into the crevice of every little part of it. And after extensive research, they're like, wait, this is all BS, right? Like this whole germ theory thing was set up by the same people They started putting out petroleum-based medicine to cure the same things that they were supposedly finding and discovering. You look at all the tests that supposedly proved it, it's all lies. It's all literally all lies. And then all the stuff that was naturally being eradicated, they hijacked that, claimed that it was because of some medicine, right? We'll just say. And it's all lies. And anyway, what I'm saying is like, that's just how the world is. Sometimes the truth is way crazier than you think it is. Like if someone had told me 5 years ago that germ theory was a lie, I would have been like, what are you talking about? It's the dumbest thing. Like, what does that even mean? You know, like, what's that even mean? And it is a lie. And if someone had told me that atoms didn't exist and that the electron wasn't real, I'd be like, okay, dude, cool story. Like, don't leave the house without a helmet on, you know? But like, that's the case. Like, electrons aren't little physical particles of matter. That's not true. So, you know, the world that we live in is crazy, and we're on the brink of like this major shift, and we need more people to get it together. We need more people to figure it out before they swoop in, and like they're gonna swoop in and do something crazy. Anyway, last thing I'll say. So I was talking about there was like this guy who came out with the Malaysian air flights. What he did was showed videos of the Malaysian air flight, and there's like these UFO orbs that fly around it for a second, and then the whole plane like disappears and goes into like this like black hole or something. And people say like it's fake. Some say it's not. They can't prove it's fake. Whatever. And he's talking a lot about the ether. And he's talking about how Tesla was right. There's an ether and all that stuff. Same thing Terrence is doing. Like they're not pointing out that that means the Earth's not moving. They're not pointing out what it really means. And that's weird. It makes me think we may be getting to that point where they realize, okay, the lies have fallen apart. And, you know, the best way to lead opposition is to control it. They come in with these new cover stories. You know, oh, well, actually, Electric Universe may have been right. Oh, well, there is an ether, but it's like a space-time relativistic ether. You know, like, and they come up, like, they keep the planets, but it's like, it's an electric universe or whatever. We may be about to get there. And if that's what's about to happen, then we need to figure stuff out, right? We need to get more people on the same page before it happens. If they pull out the UFO or the alien deception, like, none of us are going to fall for that, but a lot of people are going to fall for it. So anyway, that's how I feel. I'm just ranting all over the place. I'm pretty tired. All right, let's just wrap this up though. Let me recap. The whole point was just like whatever you believe, it's important to always be able to suspend belief, always be open to like being wrong, right? And if you can't even entertain the idea that you could be wrong or entertain other ideas, then like you're in a weird emotional state. And when it comes to this, is like, what do you experience if you were to, like, you know, the pin in Men in Black, if they walked up to you and they flashed you with it and you woke up and you walked outside tomorrow, what would you think about the Earth? Right? What would you think? You would think, okay, there's a big bright light in the sky and it gets warm, it rises in the morning, gets warmer and warmer over top of me, then it moves away, it gets cooler. There's the moon, there's the light for night, blah, blah, blah. You're like, you wouldn't even think like, oh, the Earth's not moving. You would just know that. It would never even be a thing that pops in your mind at all. The idea that it could be moving. If you felt it earthquake, you'd be like, oh, well, the Earth's moving because it's normally not moving. And if you went out to the ocean and you looked out, like I went the other day, I saw like just huge body of water, just so evidently flat. You would never think anything other than like that horizon's horizontal, the Earth's flat, there's stationary stuff, and the sky moves. That's what you would think. Doesn't mean it's true. Sometimes our senses aren't as good as aren't as good enough to know exactly what's going on, but that means that that's our default position. What is the reason that we think that's not the case? There's a power structure that's fed us information and propaganda, the same power structure that's lied to us about almost everything else, that has told us that actually all of that isn't true. It's the opposite of the truth. And certain federal government agencies have claimed to go to space and prove it. Now, just because they lie about other stuff doesn't mean that they lied about this, right? You can't assume everything that this education system or these propaganda institutions or that the government says is a lie because we've caught them lying about so much that everything they say is a lie. That's ridiculous, right? They obviously don't lie about everything, literally, but they lie about a lot. And so if that's like our evidence is like that, to go against all of our experience, that's not going to cut it. Because people ask, like, why would they lie? Are you kidding me, dude? Like they laugh at you. They're like a powerful group of people that are like the slaves. The slaves think that they're on a spinning ball and that the universe is huge and empty. And they're like, we obviously know we use plane geometry for the Earth, spherical geometry for the sky. We know the stuff in the sky is super close to us. We utilize the energies and the cycles to make all kinds of major power moves. We know it's a very intricate clock and we know how to read it. And then the slaves don't even know how to read it. We gave them some made up confusing stories, so they don't even know what the sky is, how important it is, what's really going on. You know, they think everything's the opposite of the truth. They think they have to come ask us for every answer. So they're like little stumbling children. They need us to come tell them what to think about every part of their life. Hey, daddy authority, what's really going on? Because I can't figure it out myself. And then they like, yo, you're insignificant. You came from monkeys, son, you know, and you came from a rock that turned into a fish and then jumped out the water because the water was whack and grew some feet, you know, and your ancestors are strawberry or whatever. So it's like, if that's the case, right, and then they drew a circle around you and said, stay in your playpen, be a good slave, that's huge, man. Just the mere possibility of something that big being the case is worth thorough, honest investigation. And when the mainstream comes out to show us that it's not the case, they have to lie every time, you, as a truther or someone who should be interested in truth, should automatically be like, you know what? I am able to now suspend belief. I'm going to put NASA over there. I'm going to put the globe over there. I'm just going to suspend belief. I'm not going to say I know it's not true. I'm just going to stop blindly believing in it. I'm going to set it over there, suspend belief, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to inform myself and learn exactly what it is, right? And see if it's legit. I'm going to go back to the default and then go towards the globe and see if I can prove the globe. I know that was like a very extensive way of putting that, but I hope that people can do that. If you can do that, then we're all on the same page. I'm just saying, a lot of people did that and do not believe in it. They think that that's for sure not real anymore. And that should make you think, well, like, would that happen to me if I did it? If you have to prevent yourself from even doing it, then like something else is going on. It's like trauma-based mind control, Stockholm syndrome, whatever. You should have no problem doing it. Like, who cares? I think that's the last thing I'll say. I think that typically it's fear of being like ridiculed and ostracized. You know, or you go see fighters, you see how they're treated. You're like, I would never want to be that person. I would never want to be in that position. Like that's weak, bro. Like, no, it's okay. What you find out is that it's fine, and all those people end up coming back around to you because they figure out years later, and then they're like, sorry, bro, I didn't really get it. So, okay, preaching over. If anyone on the panel has something they want to say before we get out of here, bro, I'll just go around, let you guys kind of say some final words. This was a bit of a different. I hope that the lower room is also open in case people didn't want to.
Yeah, I would say before I go, thanks for letting me join in for so long, and I hope that I enjoy getting to talk. This big tech, and I hope that I can be like a friend of the community, friend of the show who disagrees and stay on a friendly level. That's what I'm trying to do. So I appreciate the cordiality and just it was a nice talk.
Thanks. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, same here, man. Same here. What's up, Q up?
No, I was gonna say, why do you firmly think you're gonna keep disagreeing with us? You should keep an open mind and check out what we're saying.
I'm going to disagree as long as I can. I think that's a more fun position. You guys are going to drag me kicking and screaming out of my position. But when I can't disagree with you anymore, then I'll have to concede. You guys are just going to beat me. You're going to beat me. I'm going to try to beat you, and you're going to try to beat me. But if your kung fu is stronger than mine, you will win.
There it is. Cool. No, yeah, I think it's I think it's cool as long as everyone just would want to. Like, I'm pretty sure that if I asked you, like, I think I have, but like, if the Earth actually were like not the spinning globe in a solar system, like, would you want to know that? Not. I think the answer is yes, right? So,
yeah, for sure, yes. And for me, like you've mentioned the 6-month period. I think stumbled on flat Earth. If I remember right, it was while Trump was still running for president. So I think it was in 2015, like early YouTube flat Earth days. and I went down the rabbit hole, saw everything they had to say, even like giant trees and like a lot of different parts of this whole like they're lying to us about the world that we're on, ancient Earth, mud flood, Tartaria. I've been through all of that stuff. I've really looked into it, and I'm a guy who loves that kind of stuff. So I immersed myself, and for me, somehow I found my way through the 6-month period, and here we are, like almost 10 years later, and I still think it's a globe.
Well, the Tartarian thing is completely like connected. So if you think there was a reset, it matches when we got all the fake science, when we got the same fake history started up.
Right. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, there's a lot of weird things going on. One of my favorite videos, you might have seen it, is like how did Back to the Future predicted 9/11. Have you seen that one? That's one of my favorites. I still don't really get. Do you know about that one?
Yeah, a lot of stuff predicted it.
But specifically Back to the Future, because that was one of my favorite films when I was a kid. They study that film in film school because they consider it one of the most perfect movies ever made, like the characters and the story structure and everything. And it just happens to do with time travel. So it's around a particular date, has to do with a tower, a clock tower, and a striking of the tower. And like there's so many things about it. And there's literally a bunch of 9/11 symbolism all in the movie.
And on the clock.
And on the clock and the Twin Pines Mall. And like there's a million things in Back to the Future that are just about a cataclysmic event in time that changes everything. And then we get 9/11 happening. And man, that's like one of my favorite ones. I still really don't know what to think about that. It's still kind of a mind bender.
Yeah,
there's a lot of weird things about reality, man. There's weird things going on. I don't know.
Yeah, it was just all planned. Like you can go all the way back to when they first built them, and it's 9/11 on the watch of the I guess it's like a Rockefeller that's on the front of the magazine talking about building the towers, and they collapsed 33 years later. Like I think it was just like a cultic ritual.
I low-key believe that there's something to be discovered about time itself. I think time and this concept of relativity and space-time, I think there's some sort of like shucking and jiving that they're doing with relativity there.
Oh, you know it has a flat Earth clock in that movie, in the opening scene?
There is?
Yeah. There's a flat Earth clock. Yeah. There's a flat Earth clock, bro.
No, I think there's something to be discovered about time. And you said that solipsism is garbage.
Yeah.
And not exactly that, but I think there's something to the actual subjective experience of the world. And we are having a collective, but also subjective experience of manifestation of the world that we're in. There's something very
I think there's something to that. There's something to a very complex interplay of experience, and even like potential manifestation.
Like I don't even know if we're all in the same world. Like I don't. Witsit, you might be the center of the universe. Like it might be a Witsit centric universe. I don't know. And me too. And maybe each of us is. Like I don't know. Who freaking knows? But time is weird. Space is weird. The fact that everything exists at all is weird. And the way that our minds and these numbers work out. And there's a lot going on.
This place was designed.
All
right, I gotta get out of here. Yeah, you're good. You're good. Interesting. Like I would say, this place is designed. It's like this, like crazy. I wouldn't say video game, but kind of like that. Q-Up, are you trying to say something before we get out of here?
No, we're gonna go into too many rabbit holes with that.
Okay, yeah, sure. Trips, are you trying to say anything?
Well, I'll just say I really appreciate the platform and the space and the conversation. I've kind of been following for a while, and I love your approach, and I think you take a very honest approach, and I think that's good for helping people to just take a pause and go, maybe I should think about this a little more, because it does matter, and that's something that I hear a lot. Well, like what difference is it going to make? Well, it's going to make a giant difference. I mean, it's like we'll have to rewrite basically everything. If this truth community, what we're unraveling, what we think we've unraveled, if it all connects, then it makes a big difference to me. And that's why I'm here and involved and listening and trying to participate. And just add another voice to the conversation. And Big Tech, to your point about Back to the Future, I love that trilogy. There's a quote often misattributed to Orwell that I think is very relative to those movies, and it's he who controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past. So I'll just leave y'all with that.
That's a good one.
Epic.
Big Tech, you want to plug your stuff?
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, I stream on kick.com/bigtech. I'm on Twitter. I'm at bigtech404. And those are the best places to find me. You can also find my channels on Odyssey and Rumble, but Kick is my main platform. Kick.com/bigtech. Thanks.
Nice. All right, cool. Thank you guys for jumping on, man. Good convo, more meta, but it was good vibes. It is super late, and I'm supposed to get up and work out really early. But yeah, thank you guys for jumping on and being cool, being cordial. Hopefully you guys enjoy the show. It was much more of like a meta, not all the way into the weeds, but I think it's good. I know there's some new people to the channel, so cool. So shout out to you guys on Discord. I'm gonna go ahead and pop out of here just so that nothing spills over, and I'll do the closing on the stream. But much love, thanks for kicking it, and we will catch up with you next week. So peace out to the Discord. Then let me pop out.